Us is a new horror film from director Jordan Peele starring Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke, and holy shit, I'm telling you right up front, it's really fucking good. The movie centers on the family Wilson, who are on a trip to their beach house somewhere in Northern California. The mother of the family starts to notice that weird things are happening, and before she can do anything about it, she and her family are caught in a nightmare and being terrorized by super creepy people who look exactly like them. Jordan Peele is quickly becoming one of my favorite horror filmmakers of all time. He took something that we've all seen before, doppelgangers, and he made something original and smart, and again, super creepy. One of the things I loved about this movie is that it sets up so many things that pay off later into the story. And most of these things aren't obvious. It's like you've been giving all these pieces to a puzzle, and while you're watching the movie, everything slowly falls into place. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about the plot of the movie because you really need to see this one without knowing too much. But what I can say is that I like this movie better than Get Out. I really think Jordan Peele has outdone himself. We've all seen the trailer to this movie, so you can sort of pinpoint at which part of the story the shit hits the fan. And once that happens, the tension is almost non-stop. One thing I didn't expect is how violent this movie was. At a certain point it just kicks into gear, and it never feels too over the top or gratuitous. Again, it's just really good. There's also a fair amount of comedy in this movie, and most of it comes from Winston Duke's performance, and had this been made by a lesser filmmaker, it would not have worked. It almost never feels out of place. There was maybe once or twice where I felt it wasn't really necessary, but Peele comes from a comedy background, and that's probably why he's so great at horror, because both of those genres really rely on timing. There are a few jump scares, I think I counted 2 of them, but they didn't bother me, unlike most horror movies nowadays that are just annoying. I mentioned Winston Duke earlier, and he's terrific, and I was surprised by the 2 child actors as well, but it's Lupita Nyong'o who really steals the show. She is flawless. All the actors in the movie had to play themselves and their doppelganger, but Lupita Nyong'o just knocks it out of the park. No wonder they gave her an Oscar. One of the things where this movie is different from Get Out is that it's a lot more outlandish, but in a good way. Get Out was pretty straightforward with its message, and it wraps everything up in the final scenes. Us doesn't really do that. Some things are left unexplained and open to interpretation. But most of the film you won't have time to think about it anyways, because the tension is relentless. There are a few big reveals that will definitely stay with you long after seeing the movie, and this is for sure one of those films you're gonna want to watch more than once. Even now, talking about this, it gives me chills to think back on certain things. And then there's the soundtrack. Fuck me. Jordan Peele uses a couple of amazing tracks throughout the movie, and they all have a purpose. Again, I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but it's some of the best use of musical cues I've seen in a while. Even the soundtrack used in the opening credits reminded me a lot of The Omen. Just a nice little homage to a great classic horror film. Us is a really well-made movie. It's smart and original, and yet it feels very classic in that Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of way. Definitely go see this movie twice because Us is a gem. If your only source of food is rabbit, you will die of starvation. Go ahead, Google it. I'll wait.